I'm Ann Charles.
I'm Linda Quinlan.
I'm Keith Ghostland, and this is All Things LGBTQ. We are taping on Tuesday, September 7th, and as we always acknowledge, All Things LGBTQ is produced at Orca Media in Montpelier, Vermont, which we recognize as being unceded Indigenous land. Now, I think that Ann has a whole stack of headlines over there.
I certainly do. Let me just begin. Let's start this time in Asia, where there are several pertinent headlines. A more sweeping headline concerns censorship of LGBTQ plus websites. They're censored from Russia to Indonesia. And I'll talk a little more about that. I'm just going to do the headlines this time and not explore them more fully. China, and I'm sure you've heard this headline. China bans men it sees as not masculine enough for TV. This is part of a crackdown of all kinds of social media, and actors are removed from the screen and their credits taken off. And
I wouldn't stand a chance.
well, and it's, anyone who's perceived to be against the public morals. So it's some female actors too who've been banned. Now I'd like to show you a picture. This is of special interest to me. This is Salim Kidwai, who is a scholar who unearthed long-buried literature on gay love in India. He has died at 70, and he co-authored with Ruth Vanita a trailblazing study of same-sex love in India that I happen to own, and it was influential at in the discussion of Proposition 377, and I'd like to talk a little more about India in the context of his life. LGBT Afghans are on the run, afraid they could be stoned to death under Taliban law. I read a study published by ABC News in which they interviewed a young man, and he and his partner were having breakfast in Kabul when they learned the Taliban had taken over. And so he said to his lover, "Go home and call me when you get home." He never heard from his lover. The Taliban had apparently broken into his family's house and taken him to the street and beheaded him. Oh. So that's Afghanistan at the moment. And this article I read talks about the efforts, all the immigration bureaucracy that is occurring, particularly with Australia. And, I find myself personally outraged that this is not covered at all in the mainstream media. ABC News did this story on it, but nobody is mentioning it except LGBTQ organizations, pretty much. Also, on a violent note, Bangladesh sentences 6 militants to death for killing those gay activists who started a newspaper in Bangladesh. They were hacked to death. These 6 Al-Qaeda affiliated Islamic militants, infiltrated their office as repair people, and inside their bags they had machetes, and they took them out and hacked them to death. So now,
are they hiding in Bangladesh?
They've been apprehended. 4 of the Al-Qaeda, well, yeah, and there was a big crackdown on them because that wasn't all they did.
Okay.
They conducted a cafe raid, and Bangladesh is very upset because its reputation as a moderate Muslim country is being tarnished by all this activity. They belong to the terror organization, the Al-Qaeda-inspired domestic militant organization Ansar-Ullah Bangla, They took credit for a series of attacks on atheist bloggers, academics, and other minorities.
This is not government sanctioned, I gather.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, certainly not.
Okay.
This is the sort of their version of the Proud Boys
Yeah.
and Peacekeepers and ISIS-K and yeah.
Between 2013 and 2016, a spate of attacks targeting secular activists and religious minorities were claimed by this group. The most serious attack, and I think hacking these
Yeah.
LGBT journalists to death is a pretty serious attack. But this article says the most serious attack came in 2016 when gunmen stormed a cafe in the diplomatic quarter of Dhaka and killed 22 people, most of them foreigners.
As you're saying all this stuff, this is where we started 5 years ago with the international news when we
I
first
know it.
started this program.
I know it.
It is deja vu
Yeah.
in a not good feeling way.
And the other thing, speaking of our longevity, I was reviewing all the information about Act 377
Yeah.
in India, and we were reporting on that too.
Yeah.
So, on a good note, and Linda hasn't covered this, although it's a little national news, Harris has met, our Vice President Kamala Harris meets with LGBTQ activists in Vietnam. It was a roundtable. She's made several stirring comments about the rights of transgender people. We know that in February, President Biden signed a memorandum that committed the U.S. to promoting LGBTQ rights abroad. You may recall, I reported on at the time when she was when Harris was in Guatemala City. She met with a group of activists, including LGBTQ activists. So that's good news. Let's go to Europe now. Tens of thousands protest for gay marriage in Switzerland, and I have a picture before you now. Switzerland hasn't established gay marriage.
That's unbelievable, isn't
I
it?
know
I thought
it.
they had.
No.
They have like civil unions or something, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
There's going to be a national referendum on September 26th on the legalization of gay marriage, which has already been introduced in countries including Germany, Austria, France, and
I
the
think it's a
Netherlands.
conservative country on the whole.
Tens of thousands participated in the Zurich Pride Parade, which had the slogan, "You can do it, marriage for everyone now." So far, same-sex couples in Switzerland can only get official approval for civil unions, which are not on an equal footing to marriage. So that's up for a vote. 70 groups from the LGBTQ community supported the protests. So,
What does it say anything about what the trend is for the voting public there?
I think it's got to be positive.
One would think.
I mean, thousands of people marched in support. And besides the picture I showed you, there were many more. Streets were lined with supporters.
Maybe it'll go through.
Now, this isn't really directly involving LGBTQ people, but the superstars, ABBA, the Swedish superstars, they're set to unveil a sensational musical comeback. Now, and I might call on Keith, our native informant here, as a gay man. Apparently, well, they're septuagenarians now, these pop stars from ABBA.
ABBA?
Mm-hmm. And apparently they are as big in the gay male community as, say, Judy Garland was.
Mm-hmm.
And that their big hit that was popular, and they love their gay supporters, and Dancing Queen
Yeah.
was their
Oh, yeah.
popular hit.
Oh,
that
yeah.
The gay,
Queen.
thank
You
you.
obviously have not seen either version of Mamma Mia.
Well, yes,
That's all
that's
ABBA.
helped. That's helped. After some 35 years, it could be fun
I
to
love
join.
ABBA.
Dancing Queen was a recurring
theme.
Well, no, it was a recurring song played at many a memorial service as we were saying goodbye to friends
Wow.
due to HIV and AIDS.
Well, the other hits are The Winner Takes It All, for those of you who don't
Yeah.
recall. The Winner Takes It All and Take a Chance on Me.
Mm-hmm.
So, they haven't made any new music since 1981 and broke up the following year after both of the quartet's married couples divorced.
Yeah.
Were they married to each other?
Yes.
Well, thank you. And then, of course, Mamma Mia is mentioned. So that's their picture in younger days. Now they're in their 70s, as I said. Another picture before you of Lee Pearson, who sends an LGBTQ plus message of support after he won the gold medal in the Paralympic dressage contest.
What is dressage?
It's a,
Jumping?
you should know, it's like a horse.
horse.
It's horse dancing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
You like the horses.
I do, but not those kind.
Ah, well, so that was Lee Pearson. And now let's look at Crystal Lane Wright, who wins the team's LGBTQ's first medal of the Paralympics, and she's a cyclist. And it was pretty interesting because she won a silver, I believe, and she competed against her mentor, and the mentor won. And she said, well, you know, I wasn't competing against her, I was trying to have my personal best. And I think that's a good attitude for an athlete to have, or anyone. Now, one more Paralympic note. Elite cyclist Clay Davies, 29, we have a picture of him. He comes out, and what's particularly interesting here is he called out the cycling sport for its homophobia. He was competing in Tokyo, and his roommate wouldn't go into the shower if he was in the shower, and slurs were rampant apparently in the cycling world, and he aired his grievances and was frustrated that British cycling, these are all British, these sports figures, that British cycling didn't reach out and respond to him, but then British cycling said yes, they did. So there's a little back and forth. They said. British cycling said they were concerned about his comments. North America. I learned in my research that there are only 12 countries in South America, and none of these three I'm covering are part of them. They're part of North America, beginning with the Dominican Republic. Now I have a picture of Dominican Republic Pride. It calls for a law to protect the LGBTQ community, and I think I reported last time that there's a law in the works to fail to protect people from discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. They've been eliminated from the penal code. And so there's a law pending to codify that, but it may or may not happen. The King of Pride recalled data from the National LGBTQ survey that said that 96.7% of the members of the LGBTQ community in the Dominican Republic have been a victim of or witnessed some form of violence. So the penal code cannot take out discrimination based on gender identity and sexual orientation. So more news from North America. Mexico. Lawmakers in Mexico's Yucatan state approved the marriage equality bill. They've been trying to get this done for 10 years. It finally has occurred. The Mexican Supreme Court in 2015 ruled laws that ban same-sex marriage are discriminatory. Baja California earlier this year officially extended marriage equality to same-sex couples. Quintana Roo State, Mexico City, and other jurisdictions allow same-sex couples to marry, so Yucatan is following suit. Nicaragua seeks to shut down the country's oldest LGBTQ rights organization.
So in Mexico, then you don't,
They're doing it
State
district by
like
district.
state by state rather
Yeah.
than a governmental thing, okay.
Yeah, which is frustrating. The government in Nicaragua of Daniel Ortega and his wife, Vice President Rosario Murillo, in recent months have targeted opposition leaders and other groups, journalists and human rights activists and NGOs ahead of the national election of November 7th. They're trying to shore up their base. They tried to close 45 NGOs, including Fundación Occidental, which was formed in 1990. The online newspaper Convencial reported that the ministry has asked the National Assembly to annul their nonprofit status. So they do great things for the LGBTQ community.
We should probably move on soon.
Okay. I only have one more headline.
Okay.
Australia. Morrison government votes down transgender intersex workplace protection. Enough from me.
Enough from Australia.
Yeah.
I wonder if they changed the name of the tennis arena yet.
Yeah, really.
What's her name? Court, right?
Margaret.
Okay, we have a couple of big stories in the news. One is that the court rules Catholic school wrongly fired gay substitute teacher. We'll have more about that. And the other big story is Alfonso David, who was president of Human Rights Campaign, was fired. We'll have more about that. And officials in Missouri removed a taxpayer-funded exhibit documenting the history of the LGBTQ community movement in Kansas City from the state capitol following complaints from a state legislative aide. It only took a state aide. The exhibit was created by students at the University of Missouri and was called Making History, Kansas City and the Rise of Gay Rights. It was closed down after just 4 days because Uriah Stark, a staffer for State Representative Mitch Boggs, complained on social media, saying, "Is there any reason that our taxpayer-funded museum is pushing the LGBTQ agenda in our state capitol?" The Democrats, according to Greg Razor, didn't really do anything. He's a gay Democratic state representative, and they didn't do anything, and they acquiesced to Republicans who had it taken down. So that was not a good story. October trial date is set for Boone man accused of leaving anti-LGBTQ notes on residence doors. Robert Gides, 25, is charged with 5 counts of trespass with intent to commit a hate crime. This is Boone, Idaho.
Oh, because there's a Boone, North Carolina, too.
Yeah, no.
Idaho,
Boone,
okay.
Idaho. Texas anti-abortion whistleblower site is now being hosted by a neo-Nazi right-wing web server. The right-wing site is called EPIK, E-P-I-K. Some other groups have also been hosted by this site, the InfoWars, as well as many anti-LGBTQ groups. So
That's because all of the other platforms have been taken
They
down.
refused.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they took them off.
Yeah. A pastor obsessed with gay programs proclaims he doesn't follow that pansy Jesus.
Oh. Let's
That-
have some.
That
slurs.
homo pansy Jesus. He says that Jesus would call Caitlyn Jenning the devil and says
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, Jenner, right. The devil, and says sodomy. Now, this we need to know. Sodomy would cause vaccines to stop working. Shane Vogue told
Okay.
Shane Vogue told his flock to not follow that pansy Jesus.
Alrighty.
Oh my God.
Tucker Carlson tells viewers that trans people are satanic. Okay. Conservative, conversion therapy survivors are going after the therapist who called them sinful. We'll have a little more about that. Virginia High Court rules for the teacher that won't use trans students' pronouns.
Isn't that awful?
I know. It's
hope
his religious right, I guess.
Can't that be reversed by the Supreme Court? Although,
A higher court.
Yeah, I
would-
don't know. That probably.
But you would have to appeal it, and the student would need to be willing to pursue it, the same as Gavin did all of those years to finally get a decision about
Right.
being able to use the correct bathroom.
Yeah. So. In Vancouver, Washington, a 27-year-old man has been convicted of second-degree murder and a hate crime in the death of a trans teen 2 years ago, trying to use the, what is it, defense? You know, the I didn't know they were trans defense.
Yeah.
Um,
Panic defense.
panic defense.
Yeah. David Bogdanov met 17-year-old Nikki Kornhauser and strangled her with a phone charger cord after engaging in sexual contact in the backseat of his car. And he said, you know, he used the panic defense, saying he didn't know they were trans, and he
So
just,
that's a reason to kill somebody.
right, right.
Craziness. in
I
this
know.
world.
And here's another crazy story. Does anybody remember the Duck Dynasty?
Yes.
Well, anyway, with Duck Dynasty in tow, an anti-LGBT group opens a bookstore. Focus on the Family, a Christian right-wing group, opened up a shop in Holland, Missouri. So, Little Nas X honored as suicide prevention advocate by the Trevor Project. Photographer Bruce Weber settles sexual harassment suit with male models. He maintains his innocence in spite of that. And there is a question and allegations after Black AIDS Institute CEO is pushed out. We'll have a little more about that.
What, is that the Alfonso David?
No, it's the Rihanna Copeland
Oh, okay.
from another organization.
Oh, okay.
Officials at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, are investigating an incident of a student using anti-LGBT slurs as he defaces a chalk art piece of a rainbow near campus. The student was videotaped pouring water on the chalk art and saying, "Faggots, faggots," while he was doing it. So that's a lovely story. Keith.
Idaho, Utah. I'm not leaving New England. Yeah.
But I was just thinking, there was, I think I saw a segment on the local news last night of a video of a young man defacing graffiti somewhere, maybe Essex Junction or something, and it just showed him with his backpack from the back, and they said if there's anybody who can identify. Did you see that?
It was
No.
Essex Junction.
Essex Junction.
Yeah.
So it's going on everywhere.
It's being supported on all of those social medias, all the platforms that are willing to put the whistleblowers in Texas, a forum that, you know. Trivia, because we have to have something positive here. This is one of our more downer shows.
I know.
There isn't
So-
a lot of good news out there right now.
Yeah. So New England day trips, looking at LGBTQ plus history. There's a listing for Vermont, and it references Sylvia Drake and Charity Bryant. Do we know them?
I didn't.
So looking at events, on Sunday, September 12th, 11 a.m., Letty Park is queering up the causeway. Take your electric bike, go to the causeway in Burlington, queer critical mass bike ride.
All right.
On Friday, September 24th, 6 p.m. at the Fletcher Library in Burlington is a trans Black Lives Matter ride. The same queer critical mass. It's still our friend who is organizing this, trying to get public visibility, to show support to our community.
You know, there's a coffee meeting somewhere in Burlington, you know, like when.
Momentum?
Yeah.
Well, Momentum is
But I can't remember when that
Well,
was now.
Keith probably has.
Yeah.
on Sunday the 19th
Yeah.
is their virtual event of coffee and conversation.
Right.
No, this one was
They
at a certain
chew
cafe.
and chat. No, that's Chew and Chat, and you need to go onto the Pride Center site to get the location and the information.
Right. Okay.
Mark your calendars. Saturday, October 2nd, 3 to 7 p.m., Hubbard Park, a Central Vermont Pride Festival.
Oh,
All
Really?
grassroots, no corporate sponsors. Have a good time.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
A big
How
shout
do we get
out.
up there?
Yeah. A big shout out to one of all things LGBTQ's friends. Thursday, September 23rd, John Kalaki, his book release of Because Art. And it's currently scheduled for 7 p.m. at the Pride Center in Burlington. And if you watch our next interview show, Ann Charles may be talking with John Kalaki at length about his book. And from having read sections of it, this is decidedly worthwhile. This is something we should be supporting. On the Outright Vermont site today, they have changed their fire truck pull to a virtual event. And if you are in support of Outright, please go onto their website, look at how you can support, because this is their major fundraiser event. This is the source from which most of their funding comes. They're looking at trying to raise over $100,000. So, and keep in mind, Outright Vermont Friday night group has been going on every Friday night for over 35 years. So, look at, yes.
may I just, coffee hour at Perry Planet,
Yes.
Sunday, September 12th at 11 a.m.
Oh, I guess I missed it because that's the same time as Queering Up the Causeway.
Well, a
Yeah.
lot of things going on at
Gra-
September 12th.
Yeah, Sunday, September 12th, Queering Up the Causeway, Letty Park, 11 a.m.
Coffee hour at Perry Planet. Take your pick.
I don't know where Perry Planet is, but I could find out.
I'm
Grab
sure
your
you can.
I was going to say, grab your cup of coffee and run after the bikes.
No, thanks.
And a plug to be looking at organizations' websites to see who is doing what, both virtual and in person. Queer Connect had a very positive experience with their resumed drag bingo. They made prizes that were incredible and had a great time. They're also continuing to do the Lesbian Story Hour, who poets that we know might have been on.
Yes.
Out in the open, they're still doing their radio show, making a lot of effort for intersexual community outreach initiatives, not just out in the open LGBTQ plus communities. What is it that we share with communities of color, the indigenous community, the housing insecure, low income disability communities. Rainbow Umbrella, I'm told, still is doing a women's discussion group.
Yes.
And they may be doing a lot of discussing. A shout out to the Burlington City Council. They just had a special election. One of their members became, legal counsel, so they gave up their seat, receiving 47.1% of the vote in a three-way race. Self-identified queer socialist candidate Joe McGee won election.
District 3?
Uses he, they pronouns. He worked on Bernie Sanders' campaign. His platform was supporting working family, increased protections for renters and homeless people, and increasing Black, Indigenous, people of color representation
Nice.
in city government.
Wow.
This may be someone we might want to talk to.
Yes.
I was just thinking that.
So I'm going to send it back to that international, because I know that you have multiple pages there, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about Samara Foundation just gave out $38,000 in grants, and some of them are to organizations and initiatives that may not have been on our radar screen in the past.
Huh.
Interesting,
Yeah.
very
Yes.
intriguing.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll just discuss at length this censorship of gay and of LGBT plus activist groups and websites around Asia. Online censorship in 6 nations has been documented in this new report. Top of the list, Iran and the United Arab Emirates for blocking LGBTQ plus websites. Authorities use anti-LGBT plus laws and URL blocks to gag these sites. According to a major global report published this week by 3 rights organizations, 32 different LGBTQ websites were blocked at least once on Russian internet providers between mid-2016 and mid-2020. News websites on LGBTQ plus related topics were most commonly blocked, followed by cultural and human rights sites, said this report, which was published by Outright Action International, a University of Toronto Citizens Lab, and the Open Observatory of Network Interference. In a 2020 referendum, voters backed an amendment to the Constitution, this is of course in Russia, where same-sex relations are legal, but all this other stuff is going on. For example, the amendment to make marriage only between a man and a woman. Governments filter LGBTQIQ websites using a lot of methods, typically consisting of legal and technical measures. Besides Russia, the report focused on Indonesia, Malaysia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. According to the report, website bans, and this is sort of interesting because they
You mean like Facebook or Grindr or stuff like that? Okay.
And Grindr is involved at the end of the story. I'll get to Grindr. Although, well, it's one of the world's most popular gay dating apps, as we know. It's been banned in countries including Indonesia. This is aside from the focus group. It's been banned in Indonesia, Lebanon, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the UAE, even though it's a social site. It's not, human rights or political.
That's not what the Vatican said.
So this treaty, which is, it's Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, is a treaty that says that you have to have freedom of speech. Everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression, including freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers. And the 3 signatories are Indonesia, Iran, and Russia. So they signed this treaty, and they're blatantly violating it.
Well, Afghanistan will probably be joining that group.
Well, I don't think Afghanistan, it's not under discussion right now. I think they have a lot of serious trouble there. Of the countries analyzed, Iran blocked the highest number of website addresses linked to LGBTQ plus content. followed by the UAE, where 51%, 51 URLs were found to be blocked. 5 years ago, Indonesia's government said it will move to ban LGBTQ plus sites, and at least 38 LGBTQ plus websites are currently blocked in the country of 270 million people. Local activist groups are not alone in having their websites targeted, and then Grindr is included. So I can move on to Linda.
Do you know whether they do this with feminist groups too, I wonder? And are any groups that they, see as subversive or?
Well, I know China is trying to ban everybody, including outspoken actresses and political, and so I don't know that this particular report covers that.
I was just wondering because it seems to make sense that they would, be banning all kinds of information.
Well, first you have to start from a premise that women count.
Mhm.
And if that is null to begin with, then it's not even part of
I know
your
that's why
vision.
lesbians aren't even mentioned in
Lesbians? We have lesbians?
And if I may,
what's a lesbian?
in China, the party is tightening control over celebrities
Yeah.
who violate public order or have lost morality.
And is there a list of moralities that one has to follow? Or is that intuitive?
Yeah, it's traditional Chinese, if you follow traditional Chinese values,
Okay, wow.
so.
Very informative.
So you're going to talk about the Catholic Church when we're
I
talking
am
about
going to talk
morals
about
here.
the Catholic Church and morals. Court rules Catholic school wrongly fired gay substitute. Now this is good news, but then we had that other news in, Virginia or something, that
Missouri
that they, the court said that the teacher.
could use any
Yeah.
pronoun.
Yeah. So anyway, in Charlotte, North Carolina, a federal judge has ruled that gay substitute teacher was wrongly fired by a Roman Catholic school after he announced in 2014 that he was going to marry his longtime partner. U.S. District Court Judge Max Cogburn ruled Friday that Charlotte Catholic High School and the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Charlotte violated Lonnie Billiard's federal protections against sex discrimination. The ruling says Billard posted about his upcoming wedding in October of 2014 and was informed by an assistant principal several weeks later that he no longer had a job with the school. The defendants, however, say they didn't fire him for being gay, but because he engaged in advocacy.
Was he a sports coach?
Yeah.
Because I thought I saw coverage, I think maybe, is it Valor School?
I don't know. It didn't say in the article what the school was.
Because another sports coach, lesbian, was also fired. But she
Yeah,
was
this
asked,
isn't the same one.
Are you sure?
Yeah, this is a guy.
I know there was a guy who brought this case, but she was also asked to leave.
Yeah, no.
And went quietly.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Wasn't she on TV recently?
Yes, that's where I saw it.
What's significant about this ruling is a comment that I had made many shows ago about looking about where the religious freedom argument was going to land, because Cogburn, in his opinion, said that the plaintiff is a lay employee who comes onto campus of a religious school for the limited purpose of teaching secular classes.
Yeah.
Which was exactly what I was saying on our
Yep.
previous show of, is the court going to look at you as a professor in this religious institution representing the religious institution, or are you merely an educator? And
'Cause
what
he
he is saying is, if I'm not teaching, catechism or an equivalent in
the Bible.
class, bingo. No, you don't have that religious freedom to discriminate. So I was very interested
So
in
that's
that.
good news. We'll see if it goes anywhere else. They'll probably appeal it. And then we have the big story of Alfonso Davis. And he vows that legal challenges after being fired, he says, as a gay black man who has spent his life fighting for civil and human rights, they cannot shut me out. Expect a legal challenge. And as we know, we may recall that Alfonso Davis was accused of aiding then Governor Cuomo of New York for, I guess some of Cuomo's aides asked for help, and David was accused of helping them.
Well,
And something to do with the letter, right?
Well, no,
he wrote a
well,
letter?
There were a number of things.
Yeah.
One is one of the people reporting sexual harassment. He turned
Boyland.
he turned over the personnel file to the governor's office, who in turn leaked it to the press.
although
But he says that he had to.
that he was required by law to turn that. I mean, it's such a back
I
and
know.
forth. But then there's,
Well, and then he helped to draft the letter to.
which contributed to trying to discredit one of the complainants.
Correct.
And
so he didn't sign the letter, but the board was saying, well, you
and he gave this information apparently. So, following the completion of an investigation, the HRC voted to terminate Mr. David for cause, effective immediately, for violation of his contract with the HRC. In December of 2020, while HRC president, he did assist Governor Cuomo's team in responding to allegations by Ms. Boyland of sexual harassment while president, and that is a violation of HRC conflict of interest policy. Mr. David insists the records show he did nothing wrong.
I mean, I saw his statement Sunday. He was fired Monday, and he was defiant. He was like, no, the board thinks I should resign. There's not a shred of evidence. I'm not resigning. And now the board
Fired him.
fired him.
Well, I think his argument was that, you know, he was required to do it by law.
But not to craft the
Yeah.
language of the letter discrediting this woman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I have an entirely different question. My question was, when he was hired as president of HRC, what did he disclose to them about actions he may have taken when he worked as legal counsel to Cuomo? And is part of this response a lack of transparency? You know, I'm willing to hire you into this position knowing that, you know, you've been in the public venue for a while. There may be issues that come with you. What are those issues?
Yeah.
And certainly anything surrounding allegations of sexual harassment, hostile work environment. If I were hiring someone as a president for a major advocacy group that is looking at any kind of intersectional, and HRC was saying that they are strongly in support and advocates for sexual violence, domestic
Right.
violence cases. What was the level of disclosure and transparency? And is that part of the board's response?
See, my thinking was that all of this with Cuomo wasn't revealed, you know,
Well-
and that was how, I mean, I don't know
That's
that I
where
would
my
have known
question
to
lands.
ask, you know,
Yeah.
or that David would have known to, you know, I mean, his nefarious deeds were while he was head of HRC. So
Right.
I don't know, you know.
Well, you know, he's a lawyer and the head of an agency. He probably should have known that,
He should have known not to do it.
right?
And that's what
If
we
he
were
did it,
saying
which
on
is
it.
what he's saying.
Yeah, once you
You
get
know.
involved with money and power, you're compromised sometimes, and you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
And you know, I'm sure we'll hear more about this. I'm sure it'll go into the courts because he's going to sue. Probably.
It's not going to be pretty.
No.
No. No.
And he says they just want to do this because they want to hush it up, and they just don't want the negative reporting and all that. So I guess he's.
Well, there is negative. I mean,
I know, and now he's going to sue. So we'll hear more about
he's
that.
going
I'm
to
sure.
appeal, or is he going to?
Well, he has to take them to court for false.
Yeah.
Litigation
Firing.
is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
I think Linda's going to be reporting on this for a while.
A couple of years, probably.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, it's looking at the case, with the Catholic institution. That happened in 2014, and a decision is just being made now.
Yeah.
No wonder people do not come forward. I mean, and
Yeah.
part of the follow-up with Gavin Grimm was the school district had to pay the $1.3 million for his legal defense. That's not money that went to Gavin, that was to pay for his legal defense. Who's willing to hold that kind of debt to pursue this kind of case?
Yeah.
So,
And just on a very quick note, convergent therapy survivors are going after a therapist who called them sinful. In a recent Netflix documentary, Pray Away, former leaders of Exodus International, once America's leading conversion therapy organization, expressed shame over perpetuating events to change people's sexual orientation and gender identity. In 2018, report that nearly 80,000 adolescents in the U.S. between 13 and 17 would be subjected to conversion therapy. Curtis Galloway, 27, is the founder of Conversion Therapy Dropout Network, which helps survivors. So for anybody who is a survivor of this, it's called Dropout Network. So
So it's
there
a
you go.
class action suit, or?
No, it was on Netflix. It was a
I know, Pray Away.
Yeah.
It's very popular. I'm not
Right.
going to watch it, but
Yeah.
I've heard it's really good.
yeah, yeah.
So
So-
the people who are being sued said it on Pray Away?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So anyway, go ahead.
on our next show, we were talking before we started taping, there are bit reports on Front Porch Forum about incidents of sexual violence occurring at Dog River, where many people like to go and kayak. Please be aware, please be cautious. And we will be talking more about sexual violence on our next show, including a first-person article that was in the most recent issue of The Advocate from a gay man talking about a sexual assault that occurred after reaching out on Grindr and the impact that that has had. What we need to keep in mind is that sexual violence is more than merely sexual assault, but there are trauma that is incurred by the victim survivor. Thank you so much for the people speaking out on Front Porch Forum. And to sort of end this and then go to our trivia, Samara Fund gave out $38,000 in grants. And some of it were to the usual, Pride Center, Outright Vermont, Out in the Open. But they moved beyond that. They gave scholarships to 5 graduating seniors who, from within the LGBTQ plus community, they had to be LGBTQ plus identified, for demonstrations of outstanding advocacy and leadership within their schools and their communities. And the students were from Colchester, East Fairfield, Holland, Milton, and Morrisville, which are not communities that we might have
Yeah,
expected.
you would think Montpelier
Or Burlington.
or Burlington. Yeah.
No. They also gave money to Common Ground Center. These are the people who support Camp Outright. And the additional funding allows them to extend it beyond 1 week to 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Positive. Governor's Institute of Vermont, and this kind of surprised me, it is scholarships specifically to outreach to LGBTQ plus youth for online immersion courses in the arts, engineering, environmental sciences, global issues, mathematical sciences, health and medicine, technology and design. If we are going to be present we have to be given a way in, and this funding will do this. Green Mountain Library Consortium. Did we even know they existed?
No.
No.
Continued expansion of LGBTQ plus digital lending library. I mean, one of the things
Dan
that
was
we had
working on the
talked,
library.
one of the things we talked about is Standing in This Place, the performance piece that was at the Pride Theater several years ago. They're going to take the play and put it into a narrative form and give it to public libraries around Vermont to increase visibility in our stories. Also, the New England Center for Circus Arts, LGBT plus scholarships to ensure equitable participation.
In the arts?
In circuses.
Circus!
You missed the New England Center for Circus Art.
Circus! I thought it was art. Circus art.
Well, one could argue.
There we are. So the trivia question, Sylvia Drake and Charity Bryant. They're from Weybridge, Vermont. Sylvia was a lifelong resident of Weybridge. Charity visited from Massachusetts. They met, and in the early 19th century, they had a same-sex marriage. And the reason it was termed marriage is the community recognized it. Their community of faith, which was the Congregational Church, accepted them. They brought people into their home. They ran a very successful tailor shop. They lived together from 1807 to 1851, which is when Charity passed over. A little less than maybe Anne and Linda's 39th anniversary that's coming up. And what was listed on the day trips, this is what you need to go see, is that the Henry Sheldon Museum of Vermont, which is in Middlebury, lent a pair of two silhouettes, one picture to the Smithsonian of Sylvia and Charity.
Can we go to the gravesite?
You can go to the gravesite at the Weybridge Hill Cemetery, and Zach's actually going to put up a picture where it lists both of them on the same headstone.
Yeah.
And these were not women who were shunned or pushed out of the community. This was a relationship that was acknowledged and supported. 1807.
All right. And I'd like to show everybody a clip of Melissa Etheridge from her new album, and it's about supporting lesbian bars. So here it is.
Just when you think you're alright, they change the scene overnight. Don't be afraid to survive, yeah, 'cause you're just as cool as you try. You're just as cool as you try. You're just as cool as you try. You either live or you die. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you try. Come on, child, we're home. Ain't nothing wrong with your hips, baby. Ain't nothing down with your lips, child. You know you got what it takes, baby, baby, baby. Come on, shake till it breaks, yeah. Don't be afraid, let it fly. You're just as cool as as you try. Hey. You're just as cool as you try. You're just as cool as you try. You either live or you die. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you try. Wreck your hair, wreck your skin. Your shoes too tight to fit in. Hang it loose, hang it low. Hang it on, let it go. Don't be afraid, you know why. 'Cause you're just as cool as you try. You're just as cool as you try. You're just as cool as you try. You either live or you die. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you try. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you. You're just as cool as you try.
And I'd like to end my part of the show with a quotation from Vice President Kamala Harris. While she was in Vietnam, she noted that the Vietnamese Health Ministry helped craft the draft of the country's transgender rights law in 2017. Speaking about this issue, she said, transgender people deserve and need equal access to health care services. This is an issue that we still face in the United States, and it's an issue here in Vietnam. I know, and we will work together to support you and the work you are doing in that regard. So on that note,
Well, I think until we see you again, remember, to
resist.